you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode on my podcast, The Everyday Alchemist. Today, you all are in for a real treat. We have an amazing guest joining us online, Carmelle Riley. She is a multi-talented lady. She's a meditation teacher, a quantum healer, a cosmologist, an astrologist, a hypnotherapist, a super manifestor, and now she's an author, which we will get into later in the episode. So make sure you stick around for that. So kia ora, Carmelle. Welcome to my podcast.
Oh, kia ora. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your listeners who will be tuning in. I really appreciate this opportunity to chat with you, because we've chatted before, but not in this context. So it's really awesome. Thank you,
And
Neelma.
yeah, it's an honor to have you. You are such a light in this world, and I see you spreading your light on Instagram, and you make me laugh, and you are just so knowledgeable. I love to make everything so easy. That's what I love about you. I think other teachers, they sort of, I'm not, they try to make things a little bit too complex, and it makes it harder for people to grasp it. But what I like about you, you are all about the power within, and that's how I operate. Well, I think everyone is an alchemist. I think everyone can do this job because with it. So I thank you for bringing your light into the world. And we have spoken before, and you are just one of those people that have the biggest heart. You have touched me and my family on a numerous occasion now. I've called out to you when I needed healing for my child, and you've just got such a big heart. You don't you came out and saw us at home and taught us how to do it, because you said to me, you guys can do this. You don't need me. So So it's an honor to have you here today for this conversation.
Oh, thank you. And I absolutely adore your daughter. She's just such a, speaking of light, that, it is your journey to guide and to be guided. And I think that is a really great place to start, because I always say that your best super manifestations are your children.
Absolutely.
So, if you're lucky enough to be in charge of guiding for a little bit, and then to be guided by them, that is really, to me, is the most incredible use of your super manifesting powers. So, yeah.
I agree, because I think manifestation is a lot about keeping it real, coming from a place of playfulness rather than, going into a chaotic place things. And my teacher truly has been my child. If she didn't come in, I wouldn't be doing this today, because she brought spirituality into me. She showed me, she kind of awoke the inner power within me without speaking a word. So I totally one of the best teachers. So can I sort of take you back to the beginning of your journey? I'd love to know, how did you started into spirituality? Was this something that was part of your childhood, or did you have to go through something to start this beautiful journey?
Great question. So I came in through a lot of darkness, actually. I had a really traumatic childhood. I had
Right.
teenage parents, and our intergenerational lines are very affected by trauma, conflict, warfare, you name it, violence. My parents were teenagers, and my dad was a street kid when he was 12. My grandmother was disconnected from her homeland in Hawaii. And I didn't even know that until a couple of years ago. But every line, I think, is broken culturally, and in many other ways economically. I guess in terms of the spirituality question, my dad was a Jehovah's Witness, and so were some of his family members. So I did have spirituality from a very early age. It quite possibly wasn't the spirituality that I have these days, but I actually feel now that I can really understand those lessons, and I can really understand God on my own terms, I feel quite blessed to have had all those Bible stories, and to have all those those examples of consciousness presented in the form of persona. So yeah, absolutely had spirituality, but it wasn't one that I was very happy with.
Okay.
And it did take me a really long time to actually find my own version that kind of aligned with my values, and to actually find, I think we spend our life really testing our values against ourselves.
Yeah.
And we talked about children also for me, because my children are very, I mean, they're grown up now, but they're 23, 21, and 19. But as small children, I had them very close together, and I was a working mum, and I wanted to, build a house. We built a 4-story house for our first home on a cliff. So I've
Wow.
always had these ridiculously squeezed together goals. And so when you shovel that in,
Mm.
and in a relationship that had been there from the time I was a teenager, I began to really experience, probably just, I can only describe it, it was a bit like an explosion
Right.
of life that, yeah, and it really, it was difficult to manage all of that activity and start to walk back into some of those trauma patterns, which, for all of us begin to surface when we load ourselves up,
Mm-hmm.
when we walk into this life, and particularly when we have children, and those children are needy, and your relationship is needy, and you
Mm-hmm.
yourself are needy. It's like, so so yeah, I don't think mine was a pretty, I really wish I could be like some people and just have walked into this gorgeous journey of spirituality from an evolved perspective at a young age, but sadly no, it was just an explosion, really.
Right. So you say that you became more aligned with your spirituality at a later age. Did something happen for that part of your spirituality to awake? Like, did you go through through a spiritual awakening, maybe, or did?
Uh, you could say that.
Yeah.
I I wrote about it a lot. I've written about it in my latest book. But really, I walked into trauma because of the unconscious patterns that I was holding in myself, which I didn't know about until I got loaded up, as I said, with 3 children. I was. From about my mid-30s, I started to have real conflict with my spouse.
Right.
And that was a revisitation of the significant trauma that came through my own experience, and probably all my family lines. There's a lot of family violence in my Māori Pacific lines. So it was really through that, and I had a separation from my husband in 2017, and it wasn't a nice separation. It was a
Right.
really, it was a really, it was a really traumatic, and pretty. There was a lot of violence within it. So yeah, I was dragged kicking and screaming into a blaze of submission.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't. It definitely wasn't pretty. But when I really think about it, I'm not sure that anybody
Mm.
walks through into an awareness of what's inside them really easily, unless they had some pretty evolved adults, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually, in their early lives. And sadly, that doesn't, it's not the norm. It's a real minority. You'd know that yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do
Mm.
you believe we as souls, before we come into a human body, do you think we choose our parents, and do you think we choose
Mm.
patterning that we go through in this human body because our soul is here to evolve and to learn those lessons?
I think the answer to that is, I think so. I'm not. I guess so. In my own work, I think that we, as our universal side, our
Mhm.
spiritual side, I'm not quite sure if it's that cut and dried, but I do think that we are only given as much in this life, in this physical life, as we ourselves can hold. I'm not sure how consciously we decide to come in. I know that a lot of teachers say that we do, but I think just the process of life, there's a bigger play behind us. I'm not, I think the evolution of life is always happening. Whether we get to choose our particular variation, and again, I probably am a bit different to most people. Most people say, yes, we chose it. But I think if it's a choosing, it's an unconscious one rather than a conscious one.
No,
It's just, yeah.
yeah.
I'm not sure. Does that answer your question? Or?
Well, it does, because that's where I find myself. I was very cut and paste before, but as I the spiritual journey, I'm like, actually, I am the creator of my reality. So
Mm,
every step of the way, I get to choose how I handle a situation. So
yeah.
maybe my soul did come here to learn specific lessons, but it doesn't mean that I have to be a victim. I can actually
Mm,
go and with that situation, with my inner power, with my manifesting skills, with my spirituality, with my prayers and everything else. So, yeah,
mm.
so I'm confused as well now. It's not as cut and
It's
paste
not
or dry
a
as I would be, and I don't think we will ever know.
no, but
um,
you bring up such a good point, because while we may not necessarily have chosen, while you and I can't answer that question, one thing
mm,
we can answer, and you said it yourself, and this is really important for anybody listening. One thing you can make a decision from this day forward is that you are responsible for everything. And
absolutely.
whatever you expect, you are going to get. And as my daughter used to say to me when she was 4.5, and used to say to all of us, you get what you get and don't get upset.
It sounds really.
And,
Here's your.
so
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Thank you for saying that, because yeah, no, I have been pondering and wondering about spirituality. I think it is just one thing that spirituality is so vast, and I think we're learning every step of, what made sense 1 year ago does not make sense anymore. But I'm open to learning. And I think,
mm,
like, talking today, and we were saying, what is the meaning of life? And I kind of said, I think it's all a game. At the end of the day, it's a game. It's
yeah,
like you and win one round, and then you got to go up to the next. And I think, just going back to what you said, I think we only get given what we can handle.
candles.
Uh, I honestly believe that every time. I actually said that recently to a friend who's got a sick child in the hospital, and the situation
Mm,
is. And I said to her, you only get given what you can handle. And that's been very comforting for me.
mm,
Um, Special
mm,
needs mom. Sometimes things get so, so hard, but I remind
yeah,
myself that no, I have been chosen for this, and I have a
mm,
higher power after me. So I have no doubt that whatever gets given to me will be what I can handle. So it's comforting. So
yeah.
you say is a confirmation.
Well, but also don't forget that Nishawa and Nick, who you're lucky to be surrounded by some pretty special beings, divine beings. Actually, I met a dog on the street today called Lelu. And I said to her owner, I said, what's your dog's name? And he was like, what are you talking about? I said, names have resonance, names have energy. You need to
Mm,
know, because she was she was the most amazing dog. She was half Staffy and half Bull Mastiff. But
mhm.
anyway, so I went walking off and he went walking off. And then he came running back to me, like literally must have stalked me around the block. And he came up to me and he goes, oh, I looked at my dog's name. Her name means divine being. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. He goes, yeah, yeah. So I've got a divine being. And I said, yeah, well, I kind of knew that, but it's so cool that you now
That's
know that. And now we're talking about it. So I think that that's maybe a cool, and that's the thing about this journey of spirituality. Like
mm,
it's not, you know, astral realms and multi-dimensional parallel universes, blah, 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 blah. It's not that. It is just an awareness of the divine being within you and around you, and the ability to bring some of that divinity into your everyday to make it more fun, more play, more, whatever. But definitely, yeah. I didn't actually think about what that as a tohu, because normally I tohu as a sign. I'm always like, I know you are as well. But yeah, that was why Lelu came this just before we've had this conversation, just to remind us. We've got to, we all need to remind ourselves we are divine beings.
And divine is all around. I absolutely love that. What information! I love it because I am trying signs, you know.
Mm.
So yeah, I that's absolutely amazing. I love it. So can we
Well,
talk a little about meditation? Because I know you're a
yeah.
meditation teacher and there's so much hype about meditation. I personally love meditating, but I'm a very simple meditator. I love to just close my eyes and then connect to the divine or just connect within myself. And the days I get to meditate in the morning when Shai is still sleeping, honestly,
Mm.
my just flow. Like it is so
Mm.
peaceful. I can face anything, I can get through anything, and it's a breeze. The days I miss my morning meditation, oh my goodness, I feel it. I just, there's such a heaviness around me and everything is like
Mm.
an effort. So can we maybe talk about your meditation method? Because I know you are big on heart meditation. So I'd love people to hear about how you meditate and just anything you've got to say about meditation.
Well, firstly, you've brought up the most important point. Well, actually, you brought up two really, really important points of meditation. The very first is have your own practice, and your practice is the right practice, okay, for you. So, however you decide to meditate, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as you own it and it's not a guided meditation, because a guided meditation is junk food for the mind and it's junk food for the spirit. Somebody
Perfect.
else's words, like, 3 minutes of your own meditation that you lead is way more beneficial than anything else that you could
Mm,
ever do in your day, because you're embracing your own inner power, your own spirituality, your own divineness, and that's like, so that is so important. I think the other second thing you brought up, which I love, is the repetitive nature.
mm,
And you so I don't necessarily, I mean, I meditate 2 hours a day, so I never miss it. There's
right.
nothing that can drag me away. But you don't, the morning really, really helps. But if you don't get that, find a little way of whipping into the toilet and taking a couple of really, really deep breaths and centering in your heart. I pump mine quite a bit. Any time where you're just feeling a bit overwhelmed, there's so many ways that you can meditate without actually having to, sit there, do your practice, and then beat
Yeah.
yourself up because you couldn't get in. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only thing. It's just own your own power, own your own practice, and
Yeah.
stick to it. Stick to it. There's no real right or wrong about what it is, or how you do it. It's just that you do it, you
Yeah.
yourself.
I do totally agree because the days I do miss my morning meditation, if I'm just even pouring tea or making tea for myself, I
Mm,
switch off. I switch off from my environment, and I've actually taught my husband Nick to do the same. I was like, just pouring water, stirring the
mm,
milk, the coffee. That's you, just
mm,
sort of you within yourself with being with divine. You don't have to sit in a pose with your eyes closed.
mm,
I mean, that's great. I love doing that. But in our life with Nishaya, sometimes, so I
mm,
totally, it is just finding that space. And I think, the one thing that I get really annoyed about is when teachers come through and they're like, close your eyes, control every thought, because we as human
oh,
beings, how thoughts do we have in a day, in a second, right? So
mm,
I think that's where people get put off. I know even my close friends
mm,
like, oh, I meditate. And I'm like, no, you can meditate. You just think you can't because you're overthinking. It's really just a process of closing your eyes, going with the,
mm.
going and not having to control every thought, acknowledging it and just letting it go. Would you agree that you don't have to control every thought that comes through?
So I'm more of a self-hypnosis person than I am a meditative person, because I think it's almost impossible just to observe personally. And I think maybe that's because I have a lot of masculine energy, and I like, you're a lot more receptive, and there are there are parts of me that are receptive, but generally that's when I'm dead asleep.
Yeah,
And I think the only other thing, it just depends. It kind of depends on where you are in your life and what you want. And for me, I've always, as I said, when I've always had like I'm here to achieve big goals. I'm
absolutely.
not I'm not here to play small. And I say that a lot to people, but that doesn't mean that I would say to others, you have to do it this way. Because if you're yeah, it just really depends on what it is that you're, where the stage of life that you are at, where you are in terms of your expectations. It's such a fluid thing, meditation. It can be receptive, which is, more allowing and more just listening and receiving, or it can be very like, mine are right. So these are the universes that I'm going to be shifting in my physical world, and I'm going to, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen.
And we're saying because there are meditations where, I mean, I do creative visualization as well, and that is part of my meditation when I'm manifesting. When I go to sleep, the very last thing I do is I play a mind movie that I've created for myself, for my family, and but that's a state of meditation too, isn't it? Because you're going into
Absolutely.
delta,
Yeah.
or theta,
Yeah.
is between the different states.
That's actually the best. Well, it's actually more self-hypnosis, and I want to say this because there's nothing woo-woo or scary about self-hypnosis and meditation. It's just the slowness of your brain. So when you get theta's awesome because it's your REM state and it's your creative state. And delta is when you think you're deeply down, and it's not so much it. And again, this is where it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It just matters that you go to sleep with something positive, really positive and empowering, that is going to, feed down into your unconscious mind, your imagination, which is 90% of your mind. And the more you do that, the more it grows and it grows and it grows. So again, I really try to teach people that they are the imagineer, the diviner, the healer, the guru, the
That,
hypnotist. They
yeah,
are the divine being in their life, not the practice and not anyone external to them, not anything external to them.
absolutely. I think
Mm,
spirituality is so simple, right? It's tapping into your own power and
yeah.
bringing it out. We all are born with it. We just tend to
Mm,
forget, grow up, we kind of get told, no, you're not seeing anything. No, no, there's not, people shut down your gifts. And
yeah.
unfortunately, it doesn't get turned on for most people. And they go through life without realizing how powerful they really, truly are. And it's not
Mm,
until most often you have to go through adversity to find your inner
yeah.
power, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, you don't have to. There are some people, I think there's a generation which is
mm,
really interesting. And if you listen to if you have young children and listen to your children, they are so close to their divinity.
yeah.
They are so close. And I do think there's a generation that exists now who are like, I know, it's a large number of people who are open to astrology, and not just where where their star sign, where the month that they were born, but that is an example of spirituality because you can't see it. You're basing something based on some random placement of some stars, the sun and the moon in the sky, that is spirituality. And I think that we, as human consciousness, so many people are actually beginning to say, okay, so yeah, we have a physical life, but we also have this other side of ourselves, and we can't really explain it, but we know it exists within ourselves. And if we can't remember, we just look at our children who are racing around, seriously believing that Santa Claus is for real.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not real. Fairies don't exist, but hey, everything
Mm,
is. I came to, that's why people started talking about it. Um,
mm,
can we actually, since you did bring up astrology, can we kind of
mm.
segue into another astrology? Now,
Absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely.
I actually don't know much about astrology. People get surprised when I say that because I am Indian and astrology is huge in
Mm,
India. I
mm,
mean, from India, I'm from Fiji, and astrology is actually probably not that huge in Fiji. And saying that some people probably are into astrology, I
mm.
myself, because my mum sort of can't remember the exact time I was born. So I know you.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. She's had three kids, and for some reason, she can't forget. I mean, she can't remember the exact time I was born. She has like a near about
Mm,
time, and I might have given to you when we did the chart for me.
mhm, mhm.
I was ask you if you could, in simple terms, explain what astrology is for our listeners,
Mhm.
and can people benefit from it?
So, well, the astrology that I follow I follow a system that's based on where we live. So it is a little bit different to the main system, but essentially it is your sacred relationship with the celestial objects that are in the sky from your place on Earth. So if you think about that, and most people would accept that their sign is the month that they were born.
Mm-hmm.
But there's actually a whole, when you're born, if you went outside, there's either going to be no stars and no objects because it's apart from the sun, or if it's night, there's going to be a whole sky full of stars. So when you were born, there were placements of stars and either the sun or the moon. And that really is what you were gifted with as a framework of energy, of universal and physical energy. So that is really making it as basic as possible. But if you think about it, like, so for example, if you were born on the full moon, right? Most of us know when a full moon is happening. So
Mm-hmm.
that a person who's born on the full moon at a particular time of the year, either spring or winter, they're going to have a flavor. And astrology was worked out from basically looking at the characteristics of human beings that were born in those seasons and then drawing inferences from them. So that is essentially the system. And then there are all sorts of variations of it. But basically, if you use the example of a new moon or a full moon, in summer, say we've got a new moon in summer, well, that's
Mm-hmm.
going to have a certain kind of a character of person. And if you basically looked at all the people around the world who were born on that day at that time, they're going to be quite similar.
And does the location matter? So if two people were
Mm.
born on the day, same time, but different locations, say one was in Canada, one was in Australia, would they have different charts and different personalities because of the location?
You have like asked the most. So the next book I'm writing is going to be about South Sky astrology because it does my head in that we follow the Northern Hemisphere when
Yeah.
they are the opposite season to us. So yeah, so down under, even though you have all those Sagittarius elements,
Mm-hmm.
you actually also have the opposite, which is Gemini. So down under in New Zealand, whatever you're looking at as your main astrology, you also have to know the opposite because whatever that is, you're both, which is very lucky in a way. And a good way of explaining this is when when you have a full moon,
Mm-hmm.
that is the opposition of the sun and the moon. So they are both basically, the moon is lit up because the full light of the sun is lighting up the moon. And
Mm-hmm.
that basically means that you've got the opposites that are staring each other straight in the face, the sun and the moon. So
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what we have in New Zealand and in Australia. We're constantly varying between these seasonal extremes. So if you're an Aries here, which is, very kind of independent and visionary, and it's the first sign, you're also down under, you're going to be just as much about relationships, which is Libra.
Right.
So
Okay.
so you've got to remember that. And
Yeah, I've
but
never explained to me that simply, so it actually does make sense.
it's actually really, if you bring it back, because this used to be the case before all of the astrologers went inside. So in the time when the skies were basically mapped by the ancient Babylonians, which was a long time ago, like 5,000 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
the stargazers would be outside And then what happened is once the skies had been mapped, the astronomers stayed outside looking at the objects, but all the astrologers went into the libraries. So we had this great we had this great disconnect. And now
Yeah.
so people talk about astrology like it's some sort of system, but it has to relate to what's outside, because
Totally.
otherwise it just doesn't make sense. It's just a whole lot of woo. I can understand why people say it's woo. So
Yeah.
that's how
Um,
I look at it. But so you also have to look at your system. So in your case, the Vedic system is slightly different to our system. But whatever system you use, and it doesn't matter. Just learn one system, learn it thoroughly, learn it so it makes sense to yourself, and then that is the important uh, aim of this, is that you learn it, it makes sense to you, you can apply it, and you understand why you are applying it for you. Does that help
so
you?
when you say that, no, it does. It does actually make sense. It's a good start.
Mm,
Good start. Point to start at, actually, because
mm,
I a big topic, and you kind of do get lost in it. I mean, I'm more about
yes.
angels and other stuff, in astrology has never really been
Mm,
my I've never really connected to with astrology. I think I got put off by the point when my mum, because I have tried to go to astrologers before, and they're like, what time were you born? And I'm like, I don't actually know. And I feel like then maybe the information coming through wouldn't be correct. But you just said that you were quite different to the Vedic um charting. So does that mean that you don't need to have the exact time the way you work out the charts?
So what I would say to you is, if you did some form of, you could find out the time you were born. All you have to do is understand, you ask yourself, you close your eyes and you ask yourself, you say basically what time, like I like a meditation. And I mean, anyone can do it and a lot of people don't have their birth time. A lot of people's mothers can't remember. We don't write it in New Zealand, probably in Fiji, it doesn't get written down. So you just really just close your eyes and you just say to yourself, okay, when was I born? And if you don't get the answer straight away,
Mm-hmm.
did you get an answer? Did a voice give you an answer?
Well, my mum always said it's around 11, so I saw 11. So I don't know if it's just my mum subconsciously has put it in there, but 11 did come up when I closed my eyes and asked.
Okay.
So
Is
I'll
that
just,
is that the time that your mum told you? Was that the time that your mum
sorry,
told
you're just
you?
getting cut off. Yeah, it was around 11 o'clock, but she doesn't know the exact time, but she
Mm.
thought it could have been around 11.
So if you've got a pretty straight up answer, I'd say it's 11. The other is, if you keep meditating, if you keep saying to yourself, I really want this to be really accurate and true because I want to go down on a new learning journey, you're going to start to have dreams or something's going to
Mm-hmm.
show up. That's just the way it is. I mean, you
Okay.
know this. I don't. As soon as you
Yeah.
ask, the answer
I,
is given.
yeah, true. No, so yeah, I definitely could ask myself, and I know we know all the answers. So thank you for the reminder. I'll definitely do that. Cool. Awesome. Astrology is definitely in my I would love to learn more about astrology. I do feel
Mm,
it's coming, but it's just not the center of my point of my
yeah,
attention at the moment.
yeah.
But I think I would love to get another chart done by you, though, because I think when you did my chart, you did say I was a pretty good manifester, and I
Yeah.
definitely am a good manifester. I manifest quite crazily.
Yeah, no, you do. You have
Yeah.
Sagittarius in
So
your system. Just there's one thing that can help you, and it might help.
yeah, I'm a Scorpio.
Yeah, but you're a lot of Sagittarius energy. I can't. I think, aren't you rising Sagittarius? Oh, I need to. I know you are Scorpio, but you have a lot of Sagittarius energy in your chart.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
don't.
Scorpio is where the sun was. You have a moon sign, you have other signs, you have a love sign, a communication sign. Yeah, there's quite a lot to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I will look more into it.
Another thing you can do, and I really, I think it's worth saying for your listeners as well, is if you want to know, if you want the system of astrology to come to you, you go outside on a night of your choosing and you look at the sky and you basically just say, okay, come on, download, and that's it, and leave it, and it
It
will
is it.
show up. Well, in all these things, when the student calls, the teaching arrives. It may be a teacher, it could be a podcast, it could
Absolutely,
be
I
a
do
book,
believe so.
Yeah. And it could be
It's so
dreams.
funny you say that.
Sorry.
Sorry, our connection's just going a little bit crazy here.
Wow. I think it's
Can you
the
hear me,
galactic.
Carmelle?
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful energy combining. It's just too much for the phone to handle at the moment. No, I was saying that it's funny because I have, in the last couple of years, and Nick will vouch for this, I have been really drawn to the sky at night. I love sitting and staring at the sky. I love seeing
Yeah.
stars. I love to
Yeah.
just be there with be or Milo or whatever it is and just look up at the stars, and I'm like, oh my god, like I feel like the more I grow in my spirituality, I'm connecting with nature,
Mm.
with with the plants and everything. It's really amazing to see how I'm actually evolving through spirituality.
So there's a beautiful meditation I have to send it to, but it's called the Heart Meditation, and it's from a group that I have begun to sort of collaborate with. But I tell you, when I hear this heart meditation, because I often just walk, because it's got binaural beats, which are really good for your brain, really good for
Yeah.
your pathways. But every time I hear it, as soon as it comes on, I literally want to hug trees. Like I don't know what it does. It's really weird. I'm just looking around, I'm like, I need to hug a tree. And I mean, I feel like that anyway, but it's a really unusual feeling, or, I will throw myself on the ground and just hug the ground. It's bizarre.
Yeah, you know what? We actually have a palm tree. I don't know if you can see, but behind me we have a palm tree in our backyard. And every morning I stand outside and I'm like, universe, and then I go hug a tree. And it's funny because Nick will be drinking his coffee in the kitchen and laughing and seeing me go and hug a tree. But I do it every morning. I
Yeah.
love it. It's just such a beautiful connection. And I stand outside, I ground myself to Mother Earth. Sometimes I wonder what my neighbors think about me. They probably see a crazy lady sitting, standing in the backyard with her arms open. But yeah, no, it's amazing. I love it.
But
I understand that.
the other thing that you're doing, and people need to remember this as well, because it's not just about us, but we can give such, like if you give love to trees, you can like have this, you can tell when they're parched, or you can tell when, they're really well watered at the moment from all the rain, they're having a great time. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, good for you, but we'd like a bit more sunshine. But, you can give, I mean, I do this a lot in my meditations. I give love to the earthquake, to the Ruamuku, because I don't want an earthquake to rock any more of our country. So I send love down into the plates, and I send love out into the oceans and to the, and into the trees in my garden. And you're doing that as well. When you're thinking, you're grounding, you're actually bringing your beautiful love into your, this divine being that happens to be a tree in your backyard.
I've started doing a 5-phase meditation by Vishen Lakhani. I don't know if you know of Vishen Lakhani from Mind Valley. Part of the meditation, there's obviously 5 different steps. And one of the steps is you send love out into the planet, to all the oceans, to every soul in the planet. And I feel like every time I do that meditation, my heart just expands. My whole body vibrates, because as you give, you receive well. And it's just probably one of the most things I've learned, and I just love doing it, because I know every energy we send out into the planet, it makes a difference.
It
People
makes
think, what
sense.
can I do? But no, you know, you are like, we are so powerful. We are so capable of doing this work. So yeah, I mean, we just magical beings, eh?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know if about you, but when I do my heart work, and particularly if I connect with some of my spiritual friends, you know, I got one from a friend, I haven't seen him for a while, and I was just, oh, I just feel like I really need to just send some love to him. And I got this text from him, he's like, are you in Christchurch?
Like,
It was like literally, 20 minutes after I'd got out of my morning meditation. I'm like, that's so not bizarre, but also bizarre. So, it does impact people. I mean, for me, I'm sending love to Palestine and actually to Israel as well, because I really would like, just the cessation of all those, all of the fighting. I'd like it to cease. So I don't want to have an opinion about it, but I do want to send love.
do you know, Nick and I had
Mm,
the same. I said to Nick, I don't want to go on social media, but I know what I'm doing every
mm,
day. I
mm,
And I'm the same. I said, I don't know the
mm,
history. I don't know who's in the right or in the wrong. For
mm,
me, they're human beings and innocent people are getting killed. So I've been praying and sending love to Israel and Palestinian as
mm.
well. And amazing because we are so similar, because I think you get to a place where every human being is a human being. There's no division. You don't see them as for religion or who's wrong, who's right. You see them as souls. And I
Mm.
totally agree with you as well.
Well, the
I
thing
actually
is
got,
that, and sorry, carry on.
no, no, I was
Mm,
just saying, being an empath, when it started,
mm,
I had 2, 3 days where I felt really down and I couldn't get out of
mm,
this feeling. What is wrong with me? Why do I feel so down? I felt like,
mm,
not right. And it was not until I was talking to my healer friend and she said, you're tapping into the global energy of what's actually happening, even though I
mm, mm,
wasn't into it. And then once I got
mm,
to know, I, started praying and getting on my knees and praying for the people there. I felt like the energy started going, and I felt like they were pressure, like, they were telling me, and maybe I wasn't as connected as I thought I was in that moment, because it took someone else to remind me that I'm actually feeling that energy coming from the other side of the world. So energy is just so, oh, well, it's so alive.
yeah, it is, but I think, and sometimes it's hard to remember this, but it's like all the heavy energy is dark and it's there and it's taking form in the things that we're seeing around us, and then it's being amplified by our news media, and it exists. And when you start going there, it doesn't make you feel very good. But love and the ability to just, you know, send light, like the light that's streaming all the way through your hair, and and is surrounding you from above, that is when you come into that, it's like it floats above. And
Yeah,
it's just so important, however we do it. Again, however we do it, whether we're doing it for ourselves and our families, whether we're doing it for the planet, whether we're doing it for trees, whether we're doing it for, ending warfare. It's just that we do it. And we know, we own that ability to be doing that, as opposed to, uh, just thinking that we are too small to have an impact, that we are too far away to take a stance. You can take a stance. We take a stance. Our stance is to be loving.
absolutely.
That's our stance. Mm,
And we're made in the fragment of the divine. We have that ability to do it. And I think people forget
mm,
how exactly powerful they are.
mm,
Our love is the highest frequency in the universe. It can overturn anything,
mhm,
right? And
yeah.
I think get that.
Mm,
So no, no, yeah, it's a good reminder to everyone listening that you are powerful no matter who you are.
mm,
You don't spiritually doing other stuff, you being you is enough.
absolutely.
Yeah. No, great conversation
Absolutely.
from that. Um, I know like time is flying, so I just wanted to talk more, go back to manifestation, because how exciting. Book coming out on the 8th of November. Is it the 8th
Mhm.
it's launching?
Yeah.
How exciting.
Yeah.
So lucky get the copy that you sent through to me, because I went to buy it and I was saying to Nick, oh, it would have been great if I could get it
Oh,
before the, but because I'm old school, I'm a reader. When I like to read, I like to hold a physical book
uh,
to connect.
tell me about it. I can't, my own
Okay.
book. I don't even have my own book for the launch at the moment because I have a publisher in Canada. And do you know how much it costs to get books from Canada? So,
So are we able to order a hard copy eventually
yes.
through Amazon? Yeah.
Yes, and it should come within a couple of days after the launch. So it's just it's one of the particularities about a launch date is they don't give you a fulfillment notice until after the launch date. But if anyone does buy, it's quite interesting actually, Neelma, and thank you for asking me about Super Manifestar because it has been on Amazon and on the store that it's in. It goes up and down. The price has been going up and down because
Well,
I just monitor it to make sure that the link is there.
yeah.
And so I would just say to people, wait for a day when you can see the ebook for about $6 Kiwi, or
Okay.
the book for about $19 Kiwi, because the standard price is 37, and that's just because it's worked out on the number of pages and the number of
Right.
words, and yeah.
Because I've been looking through it. It's amazing. Some of the topics in there, like, you talk about breathing techniques, the law of attraction, the
Mm,
law of vibration,
mm,
and love being frequency, and how to use our emotions. I mean,
mm,
those are just topics, and I'm getting myself a book because it just
mhm.
sounds amazing. Called the Super Manifestar, and there was something else underneath it. What else do you Super Manifestar? Something about
Manifest the secret in you,
secret in you. That's right. Can
which
we
is a
talk a little
little
bit?
play.
Yeah, I love it. So, can you talk a little bit about being a super manifester yourself? Like, what
Mm.
is the biggest have manifested in your life where you knew you were going to manifest it, but the way it came from, blew your mind?
Well, definitely the children. I knew I was going to be married and have children. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm short, so I wanted to have a Barbie doll, and my daughter she is a living Barbie doll. She
Oh,
has the longest legs. They're over a meter. She's 5'9". She weighs about 60 kilos. She's a little bit skinny at the moment, but
yeah,
and I wanted tall, beautiful, big boys. So the boys are brown like me, and my daughter's fair like my husband. And so
yeah,
those are they were just knowns. I knew from the day I was born that I was going to be a mum. And again, I'm a Cancer. I've got two
yeah,
degrees, a Cancer moon and a Cancer rising. So like being a mum is very important for us homebodies, us Cancer crabs. But I know I definitely knew that children were the number one, and having a long marriage was very important, and having really, really attractive big children. So our eldest son is 6'7". My
wow.
number two son is 6'3", and Rafi, our daughter's 5'9", and definitely looks like a Barbie doll.
And your children exactly how you wanted to physically. That's the biggest manifestation. That's amazing. In your
I
book,
didn't
you
do
also
so well with my husband though. Like he doesn't behave himself like I would. I've obviously got some resistance, which I still haven't worked through from my own childhood trauma, because he is a 6'5" lovable rogue. So, and that's what I wanted to say about manifesting. Like the everyone's a manifester.
yeah.
Whatever's in front of your life, whatever is happening in your life, you manifested it because from your inner
Mm-hmm.
conception, those 70,000 thoughts and feelings. And if
Mm-hmm.
you think about that, that's 25 million thoughts and feelings a year.
Wow.
Multiply that by the time you've been on the earth. And
Oh no.
if anyone says to me they're not a vortex of energy with all that energy,
Yeah.
well, go figure. I don't get it.
we all are manifestors. We just, some people don't realize it. Your reality is what you've been manifesting to this point. And I tell people, if you're not happy, recreate your reality using manifestation. You've got all the tools available to you. And
Yeah.
it's as easy. I am actually very lucky because Nick is a very good manifester.
Oh, he is. I know that.
He is, you know how you've come here to do big things? Well, Nick is exactly like that. When I was
Mm,
listening to you having a conversation when you came over to our place, was it last year? Can't remember.
mm,
And I was
mm.
like, oh my God, you guys are the same people, just in two different bodies. I
Yeah.
said that to
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
guys work, but you have fun and you guys dream big and you guys have the biggest hearts. So it's just
Mm,
totally amazing. Um, yeah, so we've been manifesting a lot of things and it's just amazing. We are in such a flow now, so it's not even an effort. I don't fret anything. I'm like, if there's a slight delay, it's going to come in a bigger way. So manifesting is fun. I think when you get out of your own way and your own head. But I do believe that you got to take some actions as well. You can't just sit on your in your home hoping and not taking any actions. Like when I say actions,
mm,
maybe it could go, and if you're looking for a job, you have to go and apply for some jobs, right? If you like, I use stuff like acting as if I've already got what I need, writing a future letter to myself to say it's already been done. There's so many tools available to us. Do you use any of these tools? I mean, being
mhm.
a superman, like you've probably got all these other tools as well, but can you maybe, if someone is
Yeah.
listening and they're very
Yeah.
manifestation journey, can you maybe set them up to how they could be on a path to manifesting, using intention rather than kind
Mhm.
of living in the flow? Mm.
Absolutely. So I think the most important thing is you've got to find your own way of slowing your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it's about relaxing. So you've got to have some form of relaxation and you've got to have some way of breaking up your everyday. Because if you really look at your everyday, the way that
Mm-hmm.
you operate, that's what you're manifesting with. And so I say everyone is a manifestor and they're manifesting with the way that they're handling their thoughts and feelings every day. Everyone's doing that. Unfortunately, 80% of us are manifesting, which is running unconscious programs from childhood. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to be able, and that's where medication comes in. You've got to actually go back and shift out those. You have to become conscious of those programs and then shift them out of the way because that clears the space. It's like spring cleaning your house, you know. There's a reason why old people become hoarders and hang on to stuff because their subconscious is full of things that they're holding on to that they need to let go of. Gripes, grudges, limitations, worries, anxiety, all of that stuff. So you have to do that work, and that's actually quite a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Just. And if you do that, then you sort of write the slates and you come into the kind of what I would say super manifesting category, which is 1% of the population.
Isn't that crazy? Wow.
And the way a super manifestor works is they're just prepared to take 100% responsibility for everything.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what comes in. You say, no,
Good.
that was me. That was
Yeah.
me. Oh, and that can be really hard, particularly
Mm-hmm.
if you have got a history of unconscious trauma. To say, in my own case, with the violence that went on between me and my husband, I just never look at what he did. I just say, well, that was me. It was my attitude towards that caused that, which actually makes some people pretty upset with me when I say that. But I believe in my responsibility. And if I get into a situation where there's conflict, I know my pattern, my unconscious pattern, the warfare, the lines of warfare in my lines, it's pretty violent. And I
Mm-hmm.
say, that is me. And all I can do is change how I view this situation. So that is pretty much when you start being very conscious, when you say, and you know this, rather than just rushing into your everyday activity, getting in the car, driving the same way to work, doing the same job, thinking the same thoughts, coming home, not walking the dog, sitting down on the couch, turning on the news, eating your
Mm,
dinner, that's what we all do, right?
yeah,
We've all got a feeling tone.
yeah,
And it's changing that and saying, okay, and you can start really small. It might be just that you want to feel better in your body. You might want to, get rid of some unhelpful eating habits and be fitter. You might want to have a better relationship with somebody in your household. It generally helps if you work on things close to home.
yeah,
Or, or you might want a little bit more cash in so that you might want more, income and more abundance.
yeah.
But you with that, you've got to have that goal. And then I just believe in all these hacks, which are meditation,
Mm,
self-hypnosis, going to
mhm,
bed at night with your mind movie that you've made,
yeah.
breaking up your day instead of doing absolutely everything on autopilot, standing on the grass, going and gardening, going to a yoga class, doing something really different that slows you into becoming aware of how you are running those thoughts and those feelings. And
It
that's
could
kind of
just
the
be,
start.
yeah,
Yeah.
it could be as simple as, like I was saying, making a cup of tea, just
Mm.
switching outside world and coming inwards and just you and the tea in that moment. That's going to slow down the waves, in your brain. I think it is starting small. And do you do any particular rituals every day that you think has helped you to become a super manifester, or is it everything that you've just spoken about combined?
Well, it's everything, but in terms of because I always have these big goals, like big,
Yeah.
big, and there's normally about 10 of them on the go at once. So, yeah. So, for me, and when I am working with somebody else, what I would do is basically to firstly get very specific about your goal
Hmm.
and make it a positive goal. So, I mean, let's do an example. So, because it's often easier to do that than to talk about it theoretically. So, just give me one goal that you have right at the moment that is like you're working on.
Oh my God, probably creating more time for myself because I'm so
Okay.
always busy. So more time for myself. Yeah.
Okay. So you pick up that goal, and what I would say to you is just you always give your heart when you would just think about your goal. Easiest way to like expand it is to give yourself a little tap and
Hmm.
drop your goal into your heart. So just do that. How do you feel when you have more time for yourself?
Really
Notice how
calm. Yeah, calm and peaceful and relaxed.
so that's the energy of being at the end, being
Hmm.
successful.
Hmm.
So so being calm and relaxed. Are there any other feelings when you can talk from your heart and just talk that goal of having more time for yourself in your heart? What other feelings are there?
I feel I can be a bigger blessing to people because then I can have better input and, like you're saying, be more successful rather than rushing through things, having more time to be more, yeah, being a bigger blessing for people because I'm not then in a chaotic rat race.
So only thing I'd say about that is get away all those because I'm not. It's just like,
Yeah,
ah, I'm feeling the blessings. I'm feeling blessed. I'm feeling grateful and thankful. You see the difference?
yeah, yeah.
Do you see how you're a really good manifester, but do you see how many like little limitations and little resistance come into your goal?
Right.
So,
Yeah, no.
so drop all that in there. You're blessed, you're grateful, you're happy.
And then successful.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, now just give me one moment for you, tiny moment that confirms you're thinking from the end. You are, you've got all this time to yourself and you're such a blessing to everyone around you because you're blessing yourself. What's one tiny moment that absolutely confirms to you you're successful? Just a moment in time. Where would you
What it
be?
is, bed at the end
You're
of
in
the
bed.
night.
You're
Sorry.
in bed. Are you in bed?
Yeah, in bed, smiling
Okay.
and going, that was the day.
Okay.
That's what I
That's awesome. So tell me about how you're feeling in bed when you're not, when you know, and you're blessing yourself for having so much time.
it's like
How's it?
nothing is hard.
And what can you actually feel? What, because this is really important with manifesting. So in that moment, you're lying in bed. Tell me about the feelings of the physical of you being in your
My,
bed.
my body feels really light and calm and
Mm,
like it's just like it's really light. I can see myself in bed like smiling and just
mm,
like feel like a feather.
awesome. And what are your toes doing? Because feet are so important for Sutta.
It's like just there floating.
What are
So
you
funny.
wearing? What are you wearing in bed? Sorry, it's going to get
Oh
personal.
no, that's all right. It's my favorite comfy PJs.
And what do the sheets feel like? What sort of sheets have you got on you in your bed when you're feeling so blessed and
Satin, satin. It's just melting into my skin.
oh, I love that. And what about your pillow? How many pillows are underneath your head?
One pillow, but it feels like it's like I'm floating. Actually, I don't even feel the pillow. I feel like I'm floating
Mm,
in the air.
they're so
Yeah.
awesome. And can you smell when you're lying in bed? Can you smell what's are there any smells in your bedroom that kind of really deepen this experience of blessing oneself lying in bed and feeling so comfy like a floating feather?
Yeah, it's the fabric softener I used to do my washing. I
Oh,
really love
wicked. Okay, so that beautiful fresh
it.
laundry smell.
Yeah.
Now, in this moment, you've actually got to bring someone else into the bed or some pet others into the bed. Would you be alone? No, sorry, would you be with just Nick or would you have Nishawa there as well? Would you have a cat or who else is in the bed with you in this moment?
In the Shire.
Okay, and what's Nishaya doing that's confirming the fact that you two are lying in bed, just luxuriously owning this moment, and it's such a blessing.
She's sleeping in a deep, deep sleep, which is a big.
Mm,
And I'm next to her, feeling like, wow, this is the best feeling. She's having a peaceful sleep, and I'm just so relaxed.
mm. So tap your heart one more time. That
So
is what
amazing.
you take to bed every night.
Did you just hypnotize me? Because I honestly feel like I was floating. That was beautiful. That's
So that's what you
amazing.
take. See that
Yeah.
just that over and over and replay that over and over and over, no deviations, just deepening
Wow.
of that experience. Because I've got to tell you this from a mental causation, you're getting half of those, well, a good proportion of those 70,000 thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
feelings when you're asleep at delta, deepest level. You
Mm-hmm.
create a subconscious mind pattern. And the more
Mm-hmm.
you do that, the more your sign, your energy field sends signals that combines with the universe's energy fields, which creates reality. But it's at the micro level that we manifest. It's at the stillness level that we manifest, super manifest.
Super manifest. It's
Yeah.
not at a. It's when you're most at a natural state of calmness and
Yeah. But you have
yeah.
to you've got to break your goal down. Like you are probably like me. I can easily, in that moment, there'll be, I'll be drifting off into alternate universes. The light will be going crazy. There'll be, all this activity
Mm-hmm.
that that amplifies it, but you've just got to keep it in that very, very, very small. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that was so beautiful. Thank you. I honestly felt like for a moment bed with the Shire, and I could have just closed my eyes and gone.
Oh,
We left you sitting here by. Oh, that was amazing. I'm gonna take it to bed with me every night. My actually feels really light at the moment. I need to shake myself. I'm back in my body.
But I think I guess the important thing with that technique, because I have borrowed it, I've got to give credit to the grandfather of manifesting, Neville Goddard. And I really, if there's one bit of reading that if people want to really understand how to super manifest, I really recommend his books, because he is a legend. He helps thousands of people manifest cars, overseas trips, husbands, apartment blocks, removing all their debt. You know,
I do listen to him, and I love the fact we are one with God. We are not separate from him. Like, I think about the I am. It's just so interesting, and it's people like, I actually listen to Neville Goddard, Florence Scovel Shin. Do you listen to her? Louise. The people from back in the days, I think they have so much knowledge, and so they simplify it.
Yeah.
And everything's available on YouTube, so there's no excuse why people shouldn't be doing it, right?
Except the books. For me, it's the books. So Audible books for me, really, I walk around with them. I think that really helps you somehow walking. Because for me, I guess the things that I probably add to the manifesting are heart work, thumping your heart and bringing your feet into it, and smells. And they're kind of like hypnosis tricks and tips, but the thing with working with non-physical energy is you've got to blend it with the physical. So it's it's this convergence. And if you get too universal or too spiritual, you can drift off
into another universe.
Yeah. So you've got to make it really, it's got to be visceral. As soon as it really gets that kind of like, you can smell it, taste it, it seems so real. That's when it starts to, that's when you get it. And I think the other thing, this is really hard for us, and I don't think very many manifesting teachers teach it that well, is that you have to wait for the big signs. You can do little things, but if you start thinking, and this, I'm the worst at this. I'm like, how's this going to happen? Where's my stuff? Where's my stuff? Where's my stuff? It's not happening fast enough. I said I wanted it to happen this way, and why is that person not doing it? And why is this not coming? And then guess what? I have a book launch, and potentially the books may not arrive on time for my little launch party, which will be fun. That's me. That's not the universe. That's me. That's me harassing the publisher probably. Where's my books?
Absolutely. I think what I've learned, the biggest thing I think I have manifestation is the power of surrender. You ask, you believe, you receive, and you just got to surrender. It's easier said than done, but the moment I really got it, my manifestation went from 0 to 10. Like that much of a difference, because I think you got to let it go. When you try and control it, we're doing it from a human perspective. You got to trust the universe. It's a co-creator kind of game, right? You have to be with the universe, and you got to trust the universe. Like, the universe always has our back. It's we who kind of turn away at times. So yeah, and I know you do talk about faith and surrender in your book. When I was flipping through it, if there's one word that I can associate with, it is faith. Because I think when you have faith, you don't care what, because you just know that everything's going to work out. It doesn't matter how it does. You just know it's going to work out. So I have no doubt the universe will make it happen for your book launch to be just as it's meant to be, with or without the book.
I think the other thing is, what I've realized from this is I love writing and I love teaching, and I don't really have, I mean, it's just the fact of actually having written a book and got it to, because it's not easy at all. And
Mm.
if anyone decides they want to do it, they should reach out to me, because there's an easier way than probably the way that I've done it. But it is not easy. So I think that that's the thing, is that just being able to say to yourself, I open-heartedly went into a process, and I openly heartedly risks, took some risks.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I shook up my own self. I'm not as good as you. You're a receptive woman. I'm very poor at surrender. I'd be interested to see how good Nick is at surrendering.
He's getting there. It took him a He's got me. And I
Yeah.
you of some things that have happened
Mm,
recently, and just amazing. Like, and he really got tested where he
mm.
had to, he had no
Oh.
choice but to,
Well,
and
he's that's good, because if that is the hardest. The integration of
yeah,
allowing is
mhm,
hands down the integration of chaos and uncertainty, which is
yeah,
part of allowing, is probably the hardest thing that we
thank
can do in our life.
yeah, because I know, like, I'm on a journey with Nishaya, and we
Mm,
get to see this reality every single day, and it's very
mm,
easy to go, but when I
mm,
learned about surrender, I see miracles happen. Like, Nishaya
mm,
has almost an ICU, and the moment I surrender, and not just surrender from my mouth, because you could
mm,
say that a times, but if it doesn't come from your heart, it's a
mm.
shift, a little shift. And I know that moment now when it happens for real. Um,
When you said that, the cat started like clawing on the door, because
oh wow.
she was like, "I'll teach you something about surrender." I know, yeah, but that's it, and that's what I think I admire so much about you, is that, because I've known you for a few years now, and the times when I have heard you talking about being really scared of what was coming next, and this
Mm.
fear and anxiety, and it's very easy for us on the outside to say, "Don't worry about it, everything's fine." It's really easy to say, okay, just it's going to be fine. You're going to be, to actually you yourself to know that at a cellular level,
Yeah. And
that's powerful overcoming of yourself.
I feel like somewhere I didn't have a choice but to
Mm,
do this in
mm,
my face single day.
mm,
I feel like playing field every day. I don't get to choose when to come in and out. And I had to,
mm,
but again, I know, like, like I was saying, going back, to the start of our conversation, because I have so many, like, I've got all these different things that help me, like knowing that I'll only be given what I can handle helps me.
mm,
And then
mm,
getting into the surrender, and naming my podcast the Everyday Alchemist, there was a meaning behind it, because
mm,
I have had to be a magician in my daughter's life and in my husband's life, because we women hold so much feminine
mm,
power,
mm,
in husband, but there's some things that I have probably brought into our reality that he couldn't have done, and I obviously can't do what he does, in this business world. But it's just, I have been forced into the situation where I didn't have a choice. Well, actually, I did have a choice. I could have become a victim, and we could have gone the other way. But I think that's when I realized, and I know I'm not alone, because I have my angels. And I said to you, before we started recording, I saw
mm,
two orbs around me, because I always
mm,
do a prayer before starting my podcast or even writing a
mm,
blog. I'll do a prayer,
mm.
and I'm like, here, please let it be your words that come out. Don't let my ego or anything else. And as soon as I finished praying, two orbs started flying around me. So it's just having that faith. That's why I
Yeah.
like faith.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gone to a different level for me, faith. Yeah.
I think it's so beautiful. And I spoke to this really wise woman, actually not very long ago, on one of her podcasts. And she said that you can literally pluck from your ancestral And this was had such an impact on me because obviously, you know, I feel like so much of my own cultural connections have been really strained. But she said, you can pluck an ancestor and say, help me decide whether to cook pasta or salmon. You know, it doesn't have to be the big stuff, you know. You can, shall I drive this way or shall I drive that? And I was like, I really love that because like it really takes the pressure off. You know, I don't have to decide. I don't have to get a big sign. I don't have
Oh,
to get a tornado or, you know, and unfortunately I seem to be a bit hardwired to us with big signs. But, you know, well, aside from the angels who are always present, we also have these ancestors who are there, like, you know, our tribe.
a
And
tribe.
we can ask them to help us with, do I do this or do I do this? Or, you know, guys, I need a bit of help. I've got to drive to go and, you know, see somebody. I've got to go to a doctor's appointment with Nishara, or, you know, Nishaya is, you know, not feeling as good. You know, I need someone to help me down here now.
Yeah, and I think that's operate like everything is divinely operational in
Yeah.
my work. I don't know if you know, but my granddad recently passed away. It's been 2 months now, and I
Oh,
was
I'm
very
sorry.
close to. Yeah,
Oh,
thank you. Like, he was 98, and he had a fall, and he was in the hospital for 7 weeks. He passed away, but through his passing, I don't know if you've heard my podcast, but I talk about it. Through his passing, I received a lot of signs that he was going to go, and just the day
mm,
before he came and visited me, he was in the hospital,
mm,
but he came. And I clearly heard, because I just got into bed, maybe 10 minutes of, I was sleeping. And then I clearly heard him call my name. I got up, I sat up, and Nick happened to be walking out of the loo at that time. And he said, who are you
mm.
talking to? My granddad. And he was like, he left me alone because he knows I do. Like, I'm a bit, so he left me alone. And he came to say
Oh,
goodbye.
mm,
And then the day he did pass, the next day, that night after we came back from his house, after, the marquee and everything had gone up, I came home. I was talking to Nick and I was really upset. And then all of a
yeah,
sudden I saw a huge blue orb on Nick's tummy, like on, on his mid range. And I just knew it was my granddad. And it just gave
mm,
me comfort to know, even though he had physically left his body, now I've gained an angel, a spirit guide, whatever you want to call it, an
mm,
ancestor. And
mm,
the other part of, like, he's just gone into
mm,
another place. So I totally hear what you say about ancestors, because I've had a new appreciation of it lately.
mm.
Saying it without getting
I'm
choked up.
sorry about that. I haven't connected with that episode or actually your granddad's passing because I've been so wrapped up in where I've been the last wee while. But that is a incredibly profound way of
Mm,
describing the process of passing over, but also passing on.
passing on,
And
absolutely.
that is, yeah, that is beautiful to know that we're not alone. I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
What was your granddad best at?
Um, was best was he
What was
was
the
not
state?
he was not educated, but he had the
Mm,
biggest business town we came from in Fiji. So
mm,
they had money, and they started off with one bus, and it ended up being 23 or 28. I can't remember now.
mm,
Before we moved to New Zealand, he was so knowledgeable about everything. Like,
mm,
he was, the very special thing about him was he was very close to us. Me, my
mm,
siblings, we the same
mm,
house. And we, even when we moved to New Zealand, we lived with him, I think, up until I was 16 years old. So, we were very,
mm,
very,
mm,
and then Nishaya became very close to him. Nishaya and my granddad had a very close connection. As soon as I walked into his house, he would be sitting on his favorite sofa and he'd be like, oh, pass me Nishaya. And Nishaya would go sit on his lap, and they would have like a moment. And I've captured it so many times on my phone. They would just stare into each other's eyes, and then Nishaya would crack up. And like my dad always said, these guys share a really close connection. So
mm,
when he,
mm,
after he went away, I knew Nishai could see him like straight
mm,
away, and Nishai and I saw, like, one day I was walking downstairs and Nisha was in her room, and she was smiling, and I looked over and I saw a blue orb in the room, and I was like, wow, my grand. So I know it's a little bit woo-woo for my listeners, maybe, because that's, but we have to come to the realization that these things do exist. It is part of our spirituality. It's part of our life. We all are going to transition one day.
And I think
Yeah.
the only thing that you could add to that which is, incredible and profound, is that when you start to meditate, everyone will find their way of bringing this non-physical symbolism through to themselves. So and angel people often are really visual, but I'm an auditory person, and so I get songs, or I get a podcast, or I get a book, and other people might be or I'm quite sentient as well. So that's why Le Lune, the dog, came and is a physical representation. But everyone has a different, and I think that's a really, when you close your eyes and listen within, this stops being woo, because it's just another way of actually perceiving the huge amount of energy that we're surrounded by all the time. And light is a very dominant sensory experience, but as soon as you shut your eyes, you get all these other kind of fields. And that is so powerful when people actually start to see their own system, and then start to have this kind of conversation with their own system, with the system of looking at life experience, looking at the passing of loved ones as this continuous conversation, as opposed to something that you come into this life, you end this life, and it's all, it's really powerful, but it's just so individual as well. And that's the amazing thing.
And I think get there when you get there. Like, it's taken my granddad's death for me to get there and get comfortable with death, because I've always had a fear of death, of Nishaya passing over. And I don't know if I've shared with you, but like, honestly, lay awake at night thinking, oh my God, what if she passes over? What am I going to do? And then I'm slowly getting better at it. Like, I'm learning that it doesn't actually end. And I think it's just been my own that I've had to work through. But definitely things as I progress in this journey.
It's hard to understand, though, and I had a very dear friend leave me, and I was really angry about her death this year, because she died of cancer, after breast cancer. She metastasized after she'd had 3 years of doing absolutely everything, and she was incredibly spiritual as well as a really fundamentalist Christian. And it was like you never knew which way. But her death really hit me hard. And then it just had rained in Auckland. It's rained for 6 months, and I'm like, I don't know is it the world, is it the universe that's grieving, or was it me, or was it like, where are you? But I took it. It's taken me a while to feel her presence as in a universal way, because I was so kind of, different to your granddad. I mean, he had 98 years. What a blessed time. And he was such a pivotal part of your family. But yeah, it is, I know that there will be a place for me to have have some peace on that. But it does surprise you when people die.
It
It
does.
passes
No matter
over. It does. It's like, yeah.
no matter how spiritually inclined you are, I think death is just one thing that, obviously it's another part of your, so it's going to hit you no matter how prepared you are, right? Well, this has been an amazing conversation, Carmelle. I can't thank you enough for having this conversation with me today. You are so amazing. Please keep shining your light and just being who you are, a fun person, and you're just so natural at it. Like, you are born to do this work. Like, just, yeah, you glow in your reels, everything you do on Instagram. You are just so amazing, and I'm just so blessed to have you in my life. So thank you for being part of my life. Where can people find you to order your book and to connect with you on Instagram? I will leave it in my show notes, but if you just want to announce it now.
I think the easiest way, because it's pretty simple, is my Instagram handle, which
Mm-hmm.
is at Super Manifestar, not
I
store,
love that.
star. And it was just because someone got Super Manifestar before I did, so I had to go with Super Manifestar. But
I like
you know,
that. It's not- Cool.
mm,
Thank you for this conversation. And we do have to get you back because I feel like you have like maybe another 10, 20 podcasts on you. And maybe we can deep dive into like astrology or
mm.
manifestation per episode because you are such a blessing in this world. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love being with you. I love your whānau. I love your family. We have there's a connection between us. And when you talk about shining light, sister, just, know that from deep within your heart and being, there's a lot of light and you reach so many people. And not just you, I mean, you've got the triptych, I would love to get all my whānau manifesting at the same with the same level of abundance, but right now it's mostly me. So that is really a gift to
It
have
is.
that, because there are
Yeah.
very, very few families that can say we're all resonating at this level. So yeah.
Holding Nick and I as a glue together. So
Mm,
with this
mm,
manifesting world. So
mm.
yeah, so thank you for that. And we will have you back again.
Absolutely. Thank you, my
Thank you,
darling.
love.
Thank you too.
Bye.
Bye.